Today, we're looking at a blue ink from Callifolio Bleu Atlantique. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps in the description down below, so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here, I do fountain pen ink reviews every single day, so I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Nimicine Fission with a broad nib to write for a day and to take my notes for this video. I always standardize some of my writing samples by using Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper, although I do use more papers and some of those will be seen later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and it does offer some decent shading, like blue is darker than Atlantic, and the top of the L is a little bit darker than the rest of the word. So it is there and possible. The extra fine is a lighter tone than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and some very nice shading. Thus starts light and gets dark. Quick starts dark, gets light, gets dark again. Brown starts dark, has light areas in the B, and works its way lighter. Fox, mid-tone to light to dark. 10 seconds to dry. Now medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, and still some very nice shading spots. Quick starts darker, gets lighter, gets darker. Brown starts darker, gets lighter. Over starts lighter, gets darker. 15 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us plenty of color variation, and we do get it in the writing. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 16 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 23 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both are showing no color variation because there was none. And Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading. Thus starts light, gets dark. Quick starts dark, gets light, gets dark. Brown starts dark, gets light. Over starts light, gets dark. 11 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, about the same tone as the stub. No feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine, far left to far right, shows some color variation, and we got it. The scrubby of the medium shows a tiny bit of color variation, far left to far right, but we really didn't get it in the writing. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see that this blue really pushes its way up. It's no combination of blue. It's a true prime blue, as in it's just blue. It pushes its way. There's a faint line on the bottom. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And it's flipped upside down from the original chromatography. A lot of that blue has stayed in the line at the bottom, and a lot less of it is pushing away, meaning I do think that there's going to be a little bit of hold on for this ink. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, the lowercase h does have a little bit of blowout, but I can completely read what's there, so it could be safe in a note-taking situation if you want to highlight. Water is starting to lift some of this ink. On the very bottom part of one of the water drops, you start to see it get very, very light. So water might be all that you need to clean this out of your pen. Pen flush is completely reactivating and lifting it off the page. You can start to see white of the paper coming through around some of the blooms at the bottom. So given more than 30 seconds and the tiniest bit of elbow grease, this will completely remove it from your pen. Now the 1/3 bleach solution does completely remove it from the paper, but there's no need to use it cleaning your pens. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with a realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. I'm also linking a video that shows how I do my testing and my calculations. Callifolio's Bleu Atlantique has a viscosity of 1.78, making this a pretty wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples. Now for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Callifolio's Bleu Atlantique has an average dry time of 15 seconds, so despite it being very wet, its dry time is normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Callifolio's Bleu Atlantique, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I chose a nice gray Robert Oster's Graphite. The second writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia, P. Berger, and Levenger paper. Here we're looking at it on yellow Rhodia paper to see what kind of tone change we might get for using yellow paper. And what we see is we definitely get it to turn a kind of green teal. And that happens with all of these, meaning that this is a much more transparent ink. But just to be aware that if you're using it in a professional environment on yellow paper, some people might not appreciate it. Up next is P. Berger paper. It's a French rule student grade paper. We get no bleeding, no real ghosting, does pretty well. You can use the back of the page no problem. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 4 seconds to dry. Medium is definitely darker than any other tone that's around. It has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get any. And last up is Levenger. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 6 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, about the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 9 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine does show color variation left to right, but we're not getting it. The medium shows none, and we got none. And that is all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Callifolio Bleu Atlantique? This is a nice lighter tone of blue that can offer shading from time to time, not stand out and huge, but it's definitely there. For the best writing experience, what pen and nib should you choose? I would go with a medium flow fine pen. It puts down a very nice blue. Now, if you go with a wetter broad, it is still a very cool feeling ink. It makes you feel like you're cooling off a little bit. It is a cool blue. I put out a new ink review every single day, so that if you're not already subscribed, I'm going to remind you, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching.